Just before we start this episode, wanted to remind you of the super, mega, ultra, phenomenal, game-changing prize.
Yep, the Mega Bonza Finanza Extravaganza prize we released last week. If you haven't heard of it, 48 books, our whole season 2 catalogue, today's books and the last 6 or whatever, how many books we've done so far in the season. Bang, all yours.
Yeah, mate, we're not making it sound serious, but it is a serious prize. All 48 books that if you even one of those could seriously change the trajectory of your life. You know, 7 Habits, Think and Grow Rich, Start With Why, and all 45 others that we're going to do this season. Yep. So there's 3 ways to enter. One is to fill out the survey at whatyouwilllearn.com/survey. Very short, and you go straight into the prize.
Yep. Number 2 is you can write a review of our podcast, and we'll easily find you through iTunes.
And number 3 is to buy a book, or buy a book. Send us either a picture of the receipt or a picture of the book or something, and you can enter 3 times if you want and have 3 times as much chance to win by doing all 3.
Yep, fucking get on it. Good shit.
The other thing we want to wish a big fan, Karen Davies, she's off to Tony Robbins. Literally 12 months ago we were there and she found our episode where we did a review and said she's going this year. So
huge effort. It's going to definitely change her life. Tony Robbins is a wild motherfucker, and it's seriously one of the best things, probably the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, and mate, and another throwback to March, we interviewed Janine Ellis, Shark Tank, Boost Juice, author of The Accidental Entrepreneur. It was an interesting interview. You can tell it was one of our earlier ones, but mate, towards the end I dropped an absolute bomb that nearly crashed the whole interview.
Yeah, it was an absolute lead balloon.
It was such a clingy... Mate, she was talking about yoga, and I was like begging her to go and do a yoga class with her because I lived down the road from her. But anyway, we actually went and did a yoga class with her today.
Yeah, she was launching... She did a yoga class raising money for charity. Do you remember the charity name?
Share the Dignity.
Oh, nice. I didn't
for lesser privileged women. Mate, so there was about 40 chicks and us two up the back. I didn't know it was girls only.
Yeah, it was chicks only. And I only realised driving into the actual yoga class, but chicks only. We're the only 2 fucking idiots in the back, looking very out of place. But we gave it a crack.
Yeah, we gave it a crack. I think Janelle was happy to see us.
Yeah. Good chick.
Anyway, let's get into it. Welcome back to What You Will Learn. My name is Adam Ashton.
Hello. My name is Adam Jones. Today we're reviewing Finite and Infinite Games by James P. Carse.
Now, mate, where did you stumble across this one? This was a recommendation?
Oh, yeah, this was from a mate, David Sokoloff. He recommended it. So
very nice. And this is actually, I think, in Dan Pink's top 10 books on his website. Yeah. I think.
It's come up a few times. It's a few people's favourite book of all time, that's for sure.
And there's some good stuff in here.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Mate, what was the comment you made to me? I think you said, I know it's good, I'm just not smart enough to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm in the same, but I think this is the same as when I read Art of War, and when I read some of Ralph Waldo Emerson's stuff, and this, I'm like, I know it's good, I just don't get it yet. Yeah. Maybe in 10 years, if I'm a bit smarter, I might get it.
It's one of those things, I think, this time we read it, we probably understood, or me personally, I understood maybe 5 or 10%. And then probably the next time I read it, I'll probably understand a different 10% at a different time in life.
Yeah, correct.
Or he's just a confusing shit writer.
I think it's just real deep philosophical stuff that I'm not ready for, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's extremely deep.
But no, there's some good stuff that we'll pick out, I think.
There's some incredible, just good pages of writing, which are just blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And just the confusion leading up to it maybe added the impact, I'm not sure. There was just a lot of confusion the whole time reading it.
We've got to read between the lines a bit as well.
Yeah, so
it's
going to be a hard one to review, I think.
I think
we'll see how we go.
We'll see how we go.
Yeah.
So basically he says there are 2 types of games. There's one that's finite and one that's infinite. So I guess as a bit of a description of a finite game, it's sort of everyone agrees on the rules. It ends when all the players agree who the winner is. There's a precise beginning. There's a definitive end. You can't play alone. There must be an opponent. There's only one winner. You can't be forced to play. You must choose to play. Anything else in terms of definition of a finite game?
Yep, no, that's good.
And then infinite game. There's no boundaries. Be that temporal, spatial, numerical. It's internally defined rather than externally defined. And so it's sort of, again, you have to choose to play. You can't be forced to play, but you sort of You make it up as you go along, almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, since each play of an infinite game eliminates boundaries, it opens the player to a new horizon of time, it says. So, and finite games can be played within an infinite game, but an infinite game cannot be played within a finite game.
Yep.
So the listeners are probably thinking, what the fuck you want about? We'll get into that as well.
He says that finite games are played within boundaries, whereas infinite games play with boundaries. And so you're always testing the boundaries. You're always trying to take it to that next level because it's an infinite game. You never want it to end. So whenever it looks like ending, that's where you change the rules, test the boundaries, and take on and go to that next horizon and open up the next phase of the game, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll try and get into a bit of context here. So a finite game, he says, like, not everyone can be a corporation president or something. So a finite game might be someone who's choosing to be an engineer or a lawyer or something like that. Whereas an infinite game isn't necessarily choosing a role because you have like an infinite roles. Whereas a finite game is having a role and defined role, and you're only playing under that role or under that banner.
Yep, I like that.
Yeah.
So as well as like he says that for a finite game, a title is given at the end of play, and then a name is given at the beginning of an infinite game. So it's sort of like, as you said, that you play the game, you're working in your role, you play the game, and by winning the game, like competing against your employees, winning the game, you get that title of, manager of whatever or president of whatever. And so that would be winning that finite game.
Yep. And then with rules, so inside that game, so a finite player will play within these rules. So if they're playing, say, in a corporation and their goal or of their finite game or the prize is to win that title, then they will do anything in the rules of that game to get that title. Whereas an infinite player plays with rules.
Yep, I like that.
Changes things up.
I like that. For a finite game, it's all about, as I said, it's all about winning. It's all about getting that title. And the most important part of getting the title is having the public acknowledgement of winning the title.
Yeah. Unreal, man.
Yeah. Does that sort of make some sort of sense?
Yeah.
So that was part one.
Yeah. So I've got quite a bit more on part one. So
certainly. Go on.
So the constant attentiveness of finite players to the progress of the competition can lead them to believe that every move they make, they must make. So they're always looking at the competition. So again, in the context of like someone in a corporation trying to get a title, they think these actions are the only actions available to them because everyone else around them is doing it and all the competitors are doing everything in this finite game. So it touches on, and I think this is why Dan Pink really loved the book, it touches on the idea of autonomy.
Yeah.
Like you don't, as a finite player, you really don't have autonomy.
Yeah, that's some deep shit. He says that at the very start, pretty much the definition of both types of games is that you can't be forced to play, you have to choose to play. But within the finite game, because of that fixed lack of freedom and autonomy, they feel like they're forced to make certain moves.
Yeah. And
they feel like that's what they're forced to play.
And so in the finite game, you're playing a role. You're not really being an infinite player, which is like, I guess, more a bit on authenticity. So like what he says, the issue with a finite game is the issue whether we are willing to drop the veil and acknowledge it is, if only to ourselves, that we have freely chosen to face the world through a mask. So you're putting this mask on of a finite play, trying to be, an actor. Mate, is that me reading between the lines or no, that's literal?
I don't know if it is read between the lines or that's what he's saying, but either way, it's fucking good shit.
But for me, that was actually one of my favourite parts of the book, just that idea, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. Any more on part one?
Yeah, just let me catch up.
Yeah, sorry, mate. He talks about surprises as well a little bit. Yep. He says in a finite game, the best way to win is to surprise your opponent, do something that they're not expecting. And that's why whoever's like sort of leading the way likes to control the game to reduce or prevent those sort of surprises. And that's how the players try to control the future. Yep. Whereas in an infinite game, you expect surprises because that's the whole point, is to have constant innovation, constant surprises.
Yep. That's right. And another thing another theme touches on a little bit is vulnerability. So because finite players are always putting this act on to be on the role, play the role player, they can't be vulnerable, whereas infinite players, prepare themselves to be surprised by the future and are playing this game of life in complete openness, and they're not attached to an outcome. So they have some kind of vulnerability and exposing one's changing identity and exposing one to ceaseless growth, it says, and to be the dynamic self that is yet to be.
That sounds like some serious deep shit.
That's some deep shit,
That's
man.
some good. That's like some of the Buddhist books we've done. Don't not becoming attached to an outcome.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah.
So
I like that.
No.
I'm going to have to listen back to that one as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of here, and then there's it also goes into power and strength. So with finite players, they're playing for power, and power is like how much resistance can I have relative to others. Mm-hmm. So for finite games, they're contending to power, and which is for a small selected number of persons, whereas an infinite player, it's all about strength, and this is paradoxical because it says I'm not strong because I can force others to do what I wish, which is power, but because I can allow them to do what they wish in the course of my play with them.
Mate, that also sounds deep as well.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to blur the lines between that and chapter 2, which talks a little bit about power as well, but he's saying that you don't win by power, you win to be powerful. Does that make sense? So in that of a finite game, having that title then makes you powerful. So you don't win through your power, but then if you become the president of whatever, that in itself, that title makes you powerful.
Yeah.
And he says the law is only powerful because people obey it. The law itself means nothing until people obey it and enforce it.
Mate, love it. Good cheers. So we're on the chapter 2 now.
Have you got anything else from part 1?
No.
Part 2, he talked the bit I liked a lot. First of all, he talks about you can't play alone. You can't be a self without a community. So he talked a little about society, culture, but I liked a lot he talked about property, which I thought was really cool.
Was he talking about when it was property like the literal property is in a house, or is it more like stuff you own? Or?
Yeah, I think
stuff you own.
I think stuff you own.
Yeah,
stuff you own. Basically, he's saying that he says that property is sort of the compensation for the difficulty it took to obtain it. So by you winning property after a finite game, that's because the sacrifices and the difficulty you went through of the game to win it. That's your compensation. You get the property at the end. Yeah,
love it. How does Infinite deal with that?
We'll get to that.
Yeah,
maybe. He says that so for property to be worth the game that you played, the value, I guess, of the property, the value of what is gained has to be greater than what you expended. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
And he says that this is, I think, where maybe it's infinite. I don't know.
I think, well, he goes into the idea of wealth, and this may be where it touches on for Infinite. It says wealth is not so much possessed as it is performed. Yeah.
This is where he's saying that, you got to draw attention to your wealth, because he's saying the wealth is showing that you've sacrificed all this time and energy and effort in order to gain it. And so if you've got all this property without this theatrical display of wealth, then he's saying that you're just a fucking dog because you've beaten everyone and got this wealth, but now you're doing nothing with it.
Yeah.
So he's saying that you've got to justify owning it by consuming it. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
Yeah, so he's saying that act of consuming it, in a way, recovers for the loss.
Yeah.
And this is where... Okay, so then he also ties into saying that if you've got too much wealth, that's where theft and tax come in to try and even it out.
Yeah.
So he's saying that if anyone's got too much money, then they start taxing them and give to people who've got less money.
Which is good.
Or property. I don't know. That's just what happens.
It's not good if you're rich.
I don't know if he's passing judgment or not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's but you're doing well because you're not using his words. I can only say it through his words. But yeah, again, this chapter goes into boundaries, and so he talks about the difference between a society which is finite and culture which is infinite.
Yeah.
So
I like this bit.
Every move a finite player makes is within a boundary,
or
toward a boundary, whereas an infinite player, it's every move the person makes is toward a horizon, and when an infinite player moves toward that horizon, the horizon expands and and new options and new possibilities come out within the state of play. Whereas, say, use the context again of the working in a corporation.
Yeah,
it's all finite. Every move you make is within these rules, and you're not going to be able to have new possibilities in play just because you're stuck in this one I
think we're back on track now.
We're back on.
Is good. I think we lost the audience for a bit, but we're back.
Yeah.
And if anyone hasn't worked out yet, you want to be an infinite player, not a finite player. Yeah. And so I like that bit of the boundary. So a boundary is like an opposing force. It's where two opposing hostile forces meet. It's resistance. It's what keeps you contained. Whereas, as you said, horizon, it's the vision. It's the point beyond which you cannot see. It's limited by incompleteness. It's not attainable. And as you said, you can never get there because every time you move towards a horizon, the horizon shifts further on. So you don't want to be just playing within the boundaries. You want to be always moving towards the horizon, which you can never get to. Always constantly growing.
Mate, that's phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. So, you got any chapter 3 time?
The last thing he said from there was just saying that, and he used an example of, I think, Alexander the Great, that he's saying that, if your identity is based on you always winning finite games, then he says you completely, I guess, break down and self-destruct when you get to the point where there's no more games. So he's sort of like saying that if you're always playing finite games, and again, I guess we'll try and relate it to the corporate ladder, if your game is to always win the game, get the next title, move to the next level, when you get to the top, you lose all sense of identity because there's no more competitors. There's no one else to fight.
Yeah.
And if your whole identity is based on fighting and winning finite games, when you get to the top, what do you do?
Yeah,
you're lost. It was a rhetorical question, so yeah. Good.
Love it.
You can't do anything.
Mate.
Okay, now.
It gets weird, doesn't it? So the book gets
where it takes a fucking sick twist.
Yeah, mate, I'll let you cover the sick shit. You got a sick mind.
He starts talking some real superior man, deep sexual sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Some odd stuff.
So
when I started reading this, I was like, fuck, this is
I'll let you expand. But it says, infinite players do not play with sexual boundaries, but with sexual boundaries.
Basically saying you don't want to just be refined to the finite games of regular sex. You want to push the boundaries.
How much boundaries are there with sex? I was just saying earlier, like there's only so many things you can do in sex, isn't there?
Well, but mate, he reckons you got to keep trying.
What does he say about porn?
Mate, I've got it up here. Hang on, sorry, I think it's the next bit. Oh, fuck, I missed it. Yeah, he was saying that porn is only good because it's wild shit that you wouldn't do otherwise. And he said that pornography is only exciting because it reveals something forbidden, something otherwise unforeseeable. And that's why he says that it's mandatory to have hostility, shock, and violence.
Mate.
He watches some odd porn, I reckon.
He watches some crazy porn. And what else? He says a few other really odd things.
Yeah. Mate, there was some stuff I didn't get. He says it was sort of things like no one conceives a child. A child is just conceived by the conjunction of sperm and ovum. And then the mother does not give birth to the child. The mother is just where the birth occurs.
It's just,
So again, some deep stuff that I sort of missed a little bit.
Fully understand it.
I sort of like that we'll get back to the sex in a sec. I'll come back to one other thing. He talks about disease and illness. So he says that illness itself isn't the illness, but what it removes from your possibility, sort of. So he's saying that getting cancer doesn't make you ill. You're ill because you can't do things because of the cancer. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
So he's sort of like saying, and the example he uses here, we don't get really upset because if we flap our arms, we're too heavy to fly. We don't worry about that too much because wanting to fly isn't something that we think we can attain. But he's saying if you want to be a jockey and you're too heavy to be a jockey or a fashion model, that's when that becomes an illness, being too heavy.
Yeah.
Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Good shit, man.
Yeah. Mate, the other thing he talks about as well is that infants want to root their mum.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to get at.
He was just... Mate, he was saying that everyone knows it as well.
And everyone knows... I don't know it.
Mate, he says... Because he talks about... I think it's called Oedipus, a Greek mythology where he kills his dad and then roots his mum.
Yeah.
So he's saying that, all infants want to compete with their father for their mother.
Yeah. Is that daughters as well? Or is the daughter after the dad? Mate, this is getting weird. Let's go to chapter 4.
Mate,
yeah, this is some weird shit.
Yeah.
Okay, I go.
No, chapter 3 was where I...
Is there more weirdness?
I was reading it and I wasn't sure where it was going, how the games tie into it anymore. I think he's not talking about games.
He's letting his
anymore,
own sick mind just release. Yeah, mate, you done with the weird shit?
Yeah.
There's more weird shit on it coming.
Yeah, there's more weird. Part 4, he talks about worlds, which I didn't understand.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, so he says a lot about time. So, late in the game, time is being consumed really rapidly. So, and later in the game, errors are more disastrous. So we look back at youth as the times of our lives because we have so many possibilities as a finite player. Because as you move through, all the possibilities seem to close in and time's being consumed rapidly and the moves you can make decrease a lot.
That's sick. I missed that bit, so keep going.
Yeah. So for the finite player, freedom is a function of time. So as we get older, we lose freedom. But for the infinite player, time does not really pass because each moment is a new beginning. So each moment, and because you're moving toward the horizon, there's all these new possibilities opening up. So you're not losing. So time isn't a function of your freedom or vice versa.
Yeah, sick. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
The only bit I like from here is saying that in the finite world, victories occur at a certain point in time, but the titles you win are timeless. So the titles never age or die, and that's why you can always say, back when I was 14, I won 9 national gold medals for swimming. That's my titles.
Is it?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Good on you, man. Well done.
See, mate, I won the victories at the time, but that title's timeless.
Yeah.
But, mate, I'm stuck in
the
finite.
How old were you?
I think I'm like 13 or 14.
So you're just living off that?
Yeah, I'm stuck in the finite world, mate. I'm stuck in the finite. I need to get to the infinite side.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Cool, next part.
So, mate, chapter 5. Chapter 5, nature is the realm of the unspeakable. It kind of points out in here, we experience the unspeakability of nature at its utter indifference to human culture.
Yeah.
So
just saying, nature's always there. It doesn't matter if we're here or not.
Nature doesn't give a fuck.
Nature. Yeah.
It doesn't really give a fuck about humans.
It's not happy that we're here. It's not pissed off that we're here. It's just here.
And this moves a bit into chapter 6 as well. So the contradiction in our relation to nature is that the more we attempt to force its agreement with our own designs, the more subject we are to its indifference and the more vulnerable we are to its unseen forces.
I love it. Mate, I actually really liked part 6. Aside from the first bit and then the sex bit I liked as well, obviously. But I liked part 6 where he talks about the machine versus the garden. And so the machine is sort of, the way of saying, technology or the machine. He's saying it's these calculatable cause and effect sequences. So you do something happens. Whereas he says the garden or nature or whatever else it is just growth, maximize spontaneity in that the machine, you have to put effort in for the result to happen, whereas the garden, the energy comes from within.
Yeah.
And so and the example he uses machine gardening sort of. So if you're not trying to force the spontaneity of the garden to grow, you're just allowing it to be spontaneous and harnessing that spontaneity. Does that sort of make sense? This is where also, when was this book written?
I don't know.
I'll have to check. But anyway, so he's saying that using machine to control something means that we actually end up being controlled by that machine. And so I think this is coming true as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So he says that machines don't sort of make us... machines don't make us machines, but we ourselves turn into machines by using the machine.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so he's saying by using it, we just become robotic, and then we treat other people like machines because they're using machines as well.
Mate, it makes sense.
Yeah. He also says that we buy fancy machines, not because we feel we need it, but because everyone else is buying fancy machines as well.
Mate,
yeah,
spot on.
I'm not sure how it ties into games, but
yeah,
the machines always turn against us in the end.
Yeah,
that's what he says.
But it does. The book does go like that. It goes finite and infinite, and then it just goes on this random tangent.
Yeah,
complete tangent, and you don't know what it's got to do with anything, but it's probably got something to do with something.
Yeah, I think he Yeah, I think you're saying another thing. He says you can never reach a goal until you get rid of the machine. So if you use a machine to dig a hole, the hole's not there until the machine's out of the hole, and you don't use the machine anymore. Does that sort of make sense? If the machine's in the hole, you don't have a hole.
Mate, my brain's like just spinning. I don't know.
You're talking about travel and cars and stuff, but it might be too far.
Yeah.
There's some good shit, but it might be too far.
Mate, you got any more in there?
The last thing I want to say on part 7 was about myths and storytelling. I didn't have too much, but he says that any storytellers don't convert their listeners; they just offer a vision, and then it's up to you. Again, back to that autonomy, you to choose if you want to listen to their story or not.
Mate, that's it.
Did anyone understand anything of what we said? Or
mate, I don't know. I don't think we understand what we're saying. But there's some really cool stuff. I like the idea of in a finite game, choosing. If you choose to play a finite game, you're playing within rules, and there's really no possibilities coming down the track.
Yep.
Whereas if you play in an infinite game, you're always moving toward horizon, and new possibilities are opening with every move you make.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
I guess it helps you be more self-aware with some of your choices you're making.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think we need to reread this in about 20 years because I'm not smart enough right now to get it.
Yeah, totally, man. I've got about But anyway, we did our best. And I think we unpacked everything we learned from it. So
yeah, be an infinite player. Don't be a finite player.
Basically, if you understand what that is.
No, it was first published in 1986.
Oh wow, it's not a book.
1986.
Yeah, cool. So mate, that's it.
Let's have a finite song.
It's Finite, the song of the fine. We're playing games.
Finite and infinite games.
I said we're
James P. Carse.
I said we're playing games. We're playing games. There's finite games, infinite games. There's rules, boundaries. Push the motherfucking horizon. It's infinite, baby.
You must play. If you must play, then you can't play. You have to choose to play.
Choose to play autonomy. Have a surprise in your life. Move to the horizon. More possibilities. More possibilities.
If you're an infant, then you want to kill your dad and root your mom.
Oh,
Cause my name's James P. Carse and I love pussy.
He loves that pussy. Loves that pussy on a Friday night with his wine and his pussy and a wine and a red wine. Pussy and a wine and a wine. Pussy.